Hansel and Gretel. Once upon a time, long ago, there lived a poor woodcutter and his 2 children, Hansel and Gretel. The children's mother had died when they were very young, and their father had married again. Their stepmother was a wicked woman, and she did not love Hansel and Gretel. The woodcutter had very little money to spend on food, and so all 4 of them went hungry for much of the week. Late one night, as the 2 children lay shivering in their beds, they heard their stepmother talking. "Something must be done, or we will all starve to death," the woman whispered to the children's father. "We have enough food for 2 mouths, but not for 4. We must get rid of Hansel and Gretel." Gretel wept bitterly as she heard her stepmother describe how she would lead the children deep into the forest and leave them there to perish. "I will find a way home, little sister," said Hansel. The next morning the children were taken far away. "Stay here until we return," said their stepmother. Soon night fell, and they were left quite alone. Poor Gretel sobbed as if her heart would break. "Dry your eyes, little sister," said Hansel. "On the way here I dropped a white pebble on the ground every few steps. See how they shine in the moonlight? We can follow the trail home." Sure enough, the pebble showed them the way perfectly, and some hours later they were pushing open the door of their house. Their father was overjoyed to see them, for he had bitterly regretted agreeing to his wife's plan. Their stepmother pretended she was pleased, but they could clearly see the disappointment on her face. Some days later, Hansel and Gretel heard her talking to their father once more. "We are hungrier than ever," she complained. "We must try and lose the children again tomorrow." This time, Hansel did not have time to collect a pocketful of white pebbles. So when they were led into the forest, he dropped a trail of crumbled bread for them to follow that night. But when they searched for the crumbs, they were dismayed to find them all gone, for the birds had eaten every one. "We are lost!" cried Gretel. Again and again they tried to find a way out of the forest, but every path they took led them even deeper into the wood. Suddenly, Hansel saw a white dove sitting upon a branch. She twittered at them, then flew off over the trees. "I believe she's telling us to follow her," said Hansel, and with weary steps they trudged after the little bird. She sang as if to encourage them on their way, and after a time they found themselves in an open glade. And there, in the middle of the clearing, was the most perfect little gingerbread cottage. "Oh, Hansel," gasped Gretel, "the roof is made of honey cake, and the windows are made of barley sugar. I must just nibble a little corner." Soon they were both munching away on their favourite bits of the house, and nothing had ever tasted quite so delicious. All of a sudden the door flew open, and out hobbled an old dame leaning upon a stick. The children drew back in fear, but the old lady smiled at them kindly. "Welcome to my home, my dears," she said. "Come inside and I will look after you." She fed them sweet pancakes and then put them to bed under cosy quilts. But when Hansel and Gretel awoke the next day, the old lady's kind manner had changed. Her weak eyes glinted cruelly as she grabbed Hansel by the arm. "You will make a tasty morsel for me to eat," she cackled, and then the children saw that they had been tricked. The old lady was a witch, and she meant to make a meal of them. Laughing cruelly, she bundled Hansel into a cage. "I will fatten you up before I cook you," she hissed, and Hansel shook with fear. Every day she checked to see how fat he was getting, but clever Hansel stuck an old bone through the bars, and when the old crone pinched it, she decided he was still too thin to eat. At last the witch could wait no longer. "Fat or thin, I will eat him as he is," she decided, clutching at Gretel with one claw-like hand. "And you will help me prepare the cooking pot." How the little girl sobbed as she carried the water and lit the fire under the oven. The witch scowled at her and stamped her feet. "Stop your wailing," she shouted. "Just climb in the oven and tell me how hot it is." Then Gretel had a clever idea. She looked up at the witch timidly. "I don't know how to climb inside the oven," she said anxiously. "Can you show me?" The witch stamped her foot again, but moved closer to the oven entrance. "Why, you silly goose," she said crossly. "It is perfectly simple. All you have to do is put one foot here, and then you can step right inside." But as the witch showed her where to put her feet, Gretel suddenly ran at her, and with a great shove pushed the old hag right inside the oven and slammed the iron door tight shut. Gracious, how the old witch yelled! Soon Hansel was free from the cage and jumping for joy. Then the two children explored every inch of the gingerbread cottage. Upstairs and down and hidden in every corner were chests full of treasure, jewels and pearls, gold and silver. The children could hardly believe their eyes. They filled their pockets to the brim, and little Gretel held as much as she could hold in her apron. Soon they were ready and set off to find their way home. After a while they came to a large lake, but they could find no way of crossing the water. "Now we will never see father again," sighed Hansel. But just then a large white duck came swimming by. "I will carry you over on my back," she offered, and so the two grateful children were delivered safe to the other side. For many hours they walked under the shade of the trees, and after a time the forest began to look more familiar, and then, to their delight, Hansel and Gretel saw their own little home in front of them. Their father wept for joy as he gathered the children into his arms, for he had not had a single happy hour since he had lost them. "Your wicked stepmother has gone away for good," he said. "Now we will be together forever."